he has picked an exceptional man, 39-year-old JD Vance, to be on the ticket with him as vice president of the United States of America. I think these two are going to do it. But first, let me just say, JD kind of came onto the scene in 2016 with that book, which went on to become a movie, Hillbilly Elegy. And he's got a fascinating background. He grew up in pretty tough circumstances. He gets how hard it is for Americans. He gets it. He lived it. And he happened to be a smart guy who went into the military. That was a little disillusioning for him, but went into the military and went on to study and really studied and wound up at Yale Law School with some amazing mentors, amazing, including people like Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel, who started PayPal, remember? With, there's just a lot of overlap here. But I think that Peter Thiel had quite an affinity for JD, which may have helped in terms of Elon Musk, right? Saying, you know what, this is a really smart guy. We want him here. I think that this was, and by the way, I told you guys, did I not? I said it was between JD Vance and Doug Burgum, and there were different reasons to go with each. But the reason he went with JD is because JD has the excitement, the enthusiasm to carry on that MAGA torch. And I think what went down over the weekend was Donald Trump realized, you know what? I'm just one person. And they're really trying. Somebody doesn't want me to exist. So I have to do whatever I can to make sure that this enthusiasm and this excitement is going to get to live another day. And so that's why JD Vance is there. And JD's smart, and JD's connected to America and patriotism and all these things you need. By the way, his wife is Indian American, brilliant lawyer, actually clerked for some of those top guys. I think she was a clerk for John Roberts, maybe Kavanaugh as well at one point. And now she works for a San Francisco law firm. Yeah, even though they're from Ohio, she's a working woman, all right? She has a career. She has a family. So all these people that want to say, oh, he's just a chauvinist pig, I don't think so. All right. Like, the proof is in the pudding, or the people that want to say certain things. Oh, he doesn't like you if you're not the right this or that or the right skin color. His wife is Indian American. Okay. So stop with that. Enough already. Enough. JD is going to be great for the party. And he's a young dad. I mean, he's got it going on. I want you to see this. Here he is with Hannity after getting this announcement. He talks about the call. And once again, I think it helps humanize who Donald Trump really is. Listen.
My family's very excited, obviously asking a lot of questions. I will say, Sean, I hope I'm not betraying too many confidences here, but when the president called me today to actually formally offer me to become, the vice presidential nominee, which just sounds crazy. My 7-year-old son was sort of making noise in the background. I'm getting so embarrassed. It's like, oh my God, Donald Trump's asking me to be his vice president.
So the phone rings, he calls you, and you're like, okay, this is the call, or maybe not the call.
Or maybe it's a bad call, right? It's the call. Who knows whether it's good or bad? But then he actually has me put my 7-year-old son on the phone. You think about this. Everything that's happened, the guy just got shot at a couple of days ago, and he takes the time to talk to my 7-year-old. It's a moment I'll never forget.
Again, like, there's a kind of humanity that the left misses about Donald Trump over and over and over again. It really and truly, I mean, like, he'd call me up sometimes after the air and after I got off air to maybe talk about this, that, or the other. I remember once he called just to say, I think one of my kids was on. Gosh, your kid's terrific. He might be better than you, Trish. And I'm like, oh, I know. He wants to take over. But anyway, like, that kind of ability to connect with people. Lindsey Graham said he called him and had some ideas on how he could improve his golf swing. I mean, there's a sort of common man approach there that too many of these politicians, right? They're off in la la land thinking about big things, big stuff all the time. Okay, that's great. Time and place. You can think about big things, think about economic policy, think about foreign policy, but also think about people as human beings. That JD's a dad who has a 7-year-old who's running around making all kinds of noise. But that's human. And Donald Trump gets the importance of humanity, which is actually one of the reasons why he's so incredibly against going to war. So against, even if it's just other countries, right? The idea of enabling war, because these are lives. These are human beings at the end of the day. I'll tell you, the left has no use for JD Vance. None at all. In fact, they're saying all kinds of things. There's a guy out of Florida, Moskowitz, who really wants to try and fan the flames. They're all lined up, ready to pounce. They're giving Trump a break. Right? Because they're, okay, he just got shot at. Maybe we have to wind it down just a little bit. But, we can go for JD, right? 39-year-old Yale grad. Let's go right after him. Take a peek.
Politics right now, right? It's about, defining your party in the most extreme way as a way to market and sell. Because let's be honest, anger sells, right? There's a whole grifting empire. There's a whole anger empire. You see it on social media. You see it in podcasts. Unity and kumbaya doesn't really get people to vote, but anger does.
Okay, so Moskowitz wants you to be really angry, right? Maybe that's partly why Joe Biden was so angry when he sat down with Lester Holt last night. And then there's this guy out of Connecticut, a senator named Chris Murphy, who really is starting to sound like a crazy man, extremist. Let's roll this tape, ladies and gentlemen.
He is now picking a vice president who has pledged 100% loyalty to the cult of Donald Trump. I've also seen, JD Vance act in a way that is really dismissive of democracy. He is one of the Republican senators that routinely stops us from being able to approve appointees to the Department of Justice, because he does not want the Department of Justice to do its work if the work is investigating Republicans. So there is a plan, right, written down on paper to transition American democracy to autocracy. There is a very mainstream element of the Republican Party and Trump's infrastructure that is very thoughtful about how they are going to end democratic norms. JD Vance is part of that infrastructure, right? He has been fairly public in his antipathy for democracy. There is just a dominant strain in the Republican Party and some of the sort of thin intellectual veneer that covers Trumpism that JD Vance is a big part of, that simply believes that democracy is antiquated, that it doesn't work any longer, that we would be better off if we just had one person in charge and the rest of us were stripped of our rights, and that we put men back in charge, that we created this nation in a new cloak of Christian nationalism. That's where JD Vance comes from. And he talks a good game, but if you really listen to him, he is being picked in part because he is going to help shape this transition away from democratic norms, this transition to a white patriarchal Christian-dominated nation, something that's very different, right, than the nation that many of us have thought we have been a part of this many years.
Yeah, of all.
Okay, I know you guys are like, oh my gosh, why do I have to watch this, Trish? I mean, this guy sounds like a Looney Tune, and he is. I mean, to say things like that, I don't know if he actually is. Like, there's a method to the madness. You just heard Moskowitz talk about fear, right? So this guy's feeding the fear. He's desperately trying to feed the fear. So he's very Machiavellian in that sense. So I can't quite call him stupid. But it's a stupid thing to say, only because, I mean, for goodness sakes, JD's got the working wife. Does your wife work, Chris? I don't know, but I mean, I get it. Biden's wife works. Biden's wife's working for him. Like, Biden's wife may be running the whole show, but the difference is in the Republican Party, I tend to see men and women that may both work, but they have different careers. It's not like you got the cookie cutter political wife. Compare and contrast, for example, Melania Trump with Jill Biden. Jill, Dr. Jill, right? Who's like, we're going to win. We're going to win. Joe's in it to win it. And then Melania's like, yeah, no, I don't need to go to those events. Thank you very much. Honey, you do your thing. I'll do mine. Very, very different types of approaches. In terms of JD, his wife is a serious attorney. Okay. Like, she's got a big deal job at a white shoe law firm. And she's clerked for Supreme Court justices. She's got a full-on career, a whole lot bigger and better than I bet a lot of those Democrat senators have, okay? So, just saying. You're kind of high when you say stuff like that, Chris Murphy, but, you know, I get it. You're taking your marching orders from Moskowitz and the rest of them. Fear sells, fear sells. Anger, greed, fear, all these emotions, right? Let's tap into that.